Alright, welcome back everyone. It's the last Choi here, and we're back with some more Genshin Impact videos for you guys tonight. And tonight we're doing an Amber guide. Not very highly requested, but very near and dear to my heart. I know she's very misunderstood and gets memed on by the community, but let's see if we can try to bring out her max potential, because it does require a little more know-how than if you say you're building some other 5-star, right? So let's get to it. So before we get into the nitty-gritty of Amber and builds and all that cool stuff, we gotta go over her talents. So her first talent is her autos and her charge shot. You'll probably be using this for the charge shot. We have her skill, which is the Baron Bunny. It's a decoy, which scales off your HP. And it also does pyro damage. And we have the Fiery Rain, which is her ult, or burst. It's an AoE that does continuous damage over 2 seconds and has a very low cooldown and energy cost. For Ascension talents, the first one gives her 10% more crit rate on her Fiery Rain and also widens the AoE by 30%. Second one gives her 15% more attack for 10 seconds after your first aim shot. And then the last one is 20% more stamina when you're gliding, which is always good. So another thing about Amber that I don't think a lot of people know about is that her Ascension bonus is actually attack percent. So she gets about 6% for every 20-ish levels at a max of 24% at level 90. So when it comes to Constellations, the Constellations unfortunately do make her other builds come online. So that means that a couple of her builds are Constellation gated, which is not very fun. So if you only have C1 or 0, you're going to be stuck with a charge shot build. But let's go over them real quick and then we could deduce builds from there. So Constellation 1 will get you an extra arrow that goes slightly under your original charge shot arrow, and it follows the same trajectory, but it will deal only 20% of the damage. And it does have a weird counter synergy with a certain weapon, but we'll go over that in the weapon section. Constellation 2 gives you an improved skill, or bunny. It gives you an extra 200% damage, which is pretty big on certain scalings, and will also get you the ability to trigger it manually. Now, unfortunately, it does take a charge shot, so that's a lot of time that you're not doing damage. 3 and 5 are ults and skills. The ult comes first, and the skill comes on 5. Constellation 4 gives you an additional charge of the bunny, and also decreases the cooldown by 20%. And C6 is where her support capabilities come online. Every time you do your burst, the whole party gets a movement speed and attack bonus of 15%, which is very nice. So as stated earlier, unfortunately you can't go for certain builds until you unlock certain constellations. So you can't go support Amber until Constellation 6, and I don't recommend going bunny build until you have at least Constellation 4. Constellation 5 if you can as well. So for the most part, we're going to be focusing on the charge shot build. So headshot Amber is actually pretty easy to build. The way that headshots or weak spots work in this game is that if you hit it, it's an automatic crit. So that means you're going to get your full crit damage. And also you want to focus on Elemental Mastery to get those really big melts. Actually, the team comp around melts is actually really big for Amber. And of course the Pyro Goblet. So for weapons, Amber actually has a good amount of weapons at her disposal. But the Amos bow is of course the best in slot. A 5-star weapon that's just meant for charge shots. It'll really just make your kit overall great. So even if you go bunny build or Q build, the fact that you have this high base attack, you're also getting the base percentage here. So you stack that with all her passives, she's going to actually have a good amount of attack. If you can't get your hands on this, you can probably R5 the Sharpshooter's Oath. Its low base attack is remedied by a really big crit damage percentage, and also the passive of getting more damage per weak spots really does define her kit. Other options that you can go is the Blackcliff Warbow, but I'd rather have the Sharpshooter's Oath in my opinion. For support, you can go either the Stringless for more damage or the Warbow for more uptime on your Q. So the weapon that I mentioned earlier during the Constellations that could kind of get messed up with C1 is the Messenger. Now, this has a weak shot passive as well, but it can only occur every 10 seconds. So if you have her C1 and you get 2 arrows, and you see there, the bottom arrow that only does 20% can potentially take that passive, so you're going to be screwed for about 10 seconds. The best artifacts for Charge Shot Amber is going to be the Wondrous Troop. The 2-piece and the 4-piece just complement her very well. You get that extra 80 elemental mastery and then an extra 35% just overall damage whenever you do a charge attack. The only characters that really will utilize this will be Klee or Ganyu, maybe some other ones if you really want to make it work. But the thing about farming this set is that you're always going to be doing bosses, so you can kind of make this like a slower project if you do ever choose to build Amber. If for some reason you don't want to slowly painstakingly get these Wanderer Troop pieces, you could probably settle for a 4-piece Witch, or even a 4-piece Bolide, which is something that I don't think I want to test quite yet. But I imagine stuff like Bunny build, that would be really sick for it too. But if your team's built around Amber, the best things you can give her is off-field cryo application. So my 2 favorite supports for her is going to be Ganyu, and my favorite support overall, Diona. With their bursts, you can get cryo in a decent AoE, and you can just pop up headshots. The other characters, if you want to mix and match, you can get a double pyro, so that way you get even more attack, which you see here is pretty big because Shinyo's in the party. Or double Geo if you want to mess around with shields and cooldowns. So to wrap things up, we talk about the pros and cons about Amber. So the cool things about Amber is that she can naturally apply pyro with a charge shot, which means that you don't have to use any of your cooldowns of any kind. And she melts anything cryo really fast, so any shields of any kind, she'll just eat them up. And she does surprising damage for anything with a weak spot. But that also leads into the cons because you need the enemy to have a weak spot. So it makes her very niche and situational. So enemies like slimes and bosses, they're kind of tough to deal with. And the other con is that you really need someone to apply cryo for you. It's just what you really need for Amber. All in all though, I'd say Amber is just a little misunderstood. And she's quite niche and situational, but when those conditions are met, she's quite great. Yeah, I wouldn't mind a buff, but hey, she still does pretty well. Yeah, thanks you guys for tuning in. If you guys have any questions, hit me up on Twitch. I'm on every night at The Last Choi on TTV. And yeah, leave a like, comment, sub. If not, it's all good. And see you guys next video.